For those of you that love talking about animals, get into the comments and tell me what you liked about this episode and what you didn't like about this episode and what you would like me to add more of. And now, from Sci News, 11 million year old giant panda's cousin found in Spain. Scientists have discovered a new fossil species of bear that roamed what is now Spain in the Miocene period. And now, from prehistoric to present, my name is Ethan. Welcome to Creature Guide Live Prehistoric News. And let's dive right back into the prehistoric news of the day.
Why does this look like something you'd want as a pet?
It certainly does. Probably because at this point, hold on, did it say? Okay, so they Miocene should have an I instead of a Y. So apparently, Sci News has been having typo or editing issues for a long time. Pandas at or bears at this point are fairly small. We're talking somewhere between 12 pounds to maybe around 150 pounds. That's the largest bear.
Well, I thought he looked like a raccoon.
Especially during the early Miocene. Yeah, he somewhat does. I guess you could say like even a coati with just a short-faced coati and kind of fat. Okay, so specifically, this is the new ursid species Agriarctos pietrix. Now, this is an older article. I believe I have heard of this specific species of bear. But anyway, was a small plantigrade omnivore and was genetically related to giant pandas. Its fossil remains have been found in the Nombrevilla 2 site in the province of Zaragoza, Spain. So, the study by researchers from the National Museum of Natural Sciences in Spain and the University of Valencia suggests that this creature lived during the never mind. This was a while back. Miocene period, some 11 million years ago. I think I said that earlier. So, bears, the family in which they belong to, Ursidae, has been around for over 38. No, wait. Yes, somewhere around 38 million years. So they've been around since at least the late Eocene epoch. At that time, though, they were smaller than today's cats and mostly arboreal too. You wouldn't have found really any ground dwelling bears at that point. And
Wait, aren't bears arboreal today?
They can be to a certain extent, but they do have to come down to the ground. Even when you're looking at bears such as the sun bear or even the Asiatic black bears, the sun bears are notorious for making nests up in the trees. So like gorillas or chimpanzees, they do make nests. So, when looking at different species of bears from the Miocene specifically, so this is when there's been a drastic spike in size in the bear family or Ursidae. This is Ursavis, which was probably somewhere around 130 to 150 pounds or a little over 70 kilograms. And looking at the structure of its teeth, it has quite serrated molars as well as its distinct sharp canines toward the front. This was probably mostly a carnivore, though it is very likely when looking at most species of Ursidae, it was omnivorous to some extent. So, also feeding on different species of vegetation, probably even feeding on different species of fungi, so feeding on ancient mushrooms. Um, but
Why does it keep giving bears raccoon look?
probably because at this time they did have a sort of raccoon or I almost said raccoon dog. Raccoon dogs are actually foxes. Not a raccoon. You could say a red panda sort of a look, but red pandas are a bit off in the family tree, but they are related to bears, as well as raccoons, coatis. Now, this is a different species of early bear from the Miocene epoch, but this was after Ursavis. This was around 16 million years ago during the mid Miocene epoch, and this is specifically Belusia. It is a bit of a question as to what its fur color might have been. They're just giving it a still a really good drawing, but more of a red panda raccoon mixed look. Now, this is another picture of Ursavis. So it's also very possible at this time the bears didn't have a very bulky sort of look to them like you see today. This is a bit closer to a sun bear, but even then, a sun bear still has a more
Is he biting off something or is that his tongue? 'Cause that thing is huge.
heavily built look. Oh, it is very possible that even early bears might have had extremely long tongues compared to their body size, just like today's bears. The bear with the longest tongue today is the sun bear. despite pretty much every species of bear today easily able to lick their nose. But anyway, um, let's see. Oh, so this is also another demonstration of Ursavis. That was a much older representation of the animal, so it looks much more like a wolf or a dog. But in this instance, this has a much more simply robust sort of a early bear look.
Those look
Yes,
like
they did
dogs.
have. Wait, what?
Those look like dogs.
I was thinking it's just like a sort of quaddy, um, maybe bear mix.
That thing looks like a dog. The second one from the bottom.
Yeah, I guess you could say. Oh, wait, this one. Yeah, I guess he does. I don't know what I would compare him to though. Now, also at this time, but over in Africa, as well as different parts of Eurasia, you had different species of Rhinocerotidae, specifically the Chylotheres. So this is a subfamily of Rhinocerotidae that would not make it to today's rhinos, but they are close relatives. This is Chilotherium, which is from Africa for the most part. Halothurium lived for around 10 million years, first popping up somewhere around 13 million years ago during the mid Miocene epoch. And it could reach somewhere around 2.5 tons. Now, unlike today's rhinos, it did not score a horn. Not that it still wasn't a heavily built area, but it mostly relied on its tusks when it came to defense, as well as just um, shoving its bulk into whatever predators it came upon. Now, the tusks, it's a big question as to what they might have been used for. This is just simply the upper skull of the animal, which has been well preserved. And the tusks might have been used to scoop up aquatic vegetation since it does seem to have a somewhat hippo like lifestyle. So it might not even have been a very good swimmer. It might have just simply walked along the bottom of a riverbed or a lake. But it also might have come to land to simply feed on different species of grasses at the time, since by this time of the Cenozoic era, grasses have become abundant. And many do not know that grass that's closely related to today's species of grass only evolved somewhere around 30 million years ago during the earlier Oligocene epoch. So during the time of the dinosaurs, there were certain species of grasses, but they were very distantly related to today's, and they weren't as hard to chew, unlike today's grasses. You need to have very specially adapted teeth in order to chew on or process today's grasses, as well as specific types of saliva. So your Chilotherm could reach over 2.5 tons. Their kind, though, the Chalicotheres in general, because I was just mentioning, not Chalicotheres, Chilotherida, would still make it to somewhere around a million years ago before mysteriously going extinct. So let's hop back into it. The new Ursid species. Oh, okay. This bear species was small, even smaller than the sun bear. Um, I mean, here's the thing. When it comes to I'm thinking of Ursavis, not this animal. Okay. Sun bears can reach somewhere around 150 pounds or a little over 70 kilograms. Currently, the smallest bear species. It would not have weighed more than 60 kilograms. So this is pushing somewhere around 130 pounds. So average gray wolf over in like northern Europe, Canada. Although it is difficult to determine its physical appearance given that only pieces of dental fossils have been found, the scientists believe that it would have had dark fur with white spots mainly on the chest, around the eyes, and possibly close to the tail.
Wait a minute.
How did they know that?
Its teeth are making them think that it about its colored fur.
Yeah, that confused me. Oh, do they have preserved fur? Because we have found preserved fur, at least from different species of prehistoric mammals from the Pleistocene epoch or the Ice Age. But for the Miocene, I'm not familiar with that. I believe there have been certain individuals from the Eocene epoch or even the Paleocene, so over 45 million years ago, with like they were buried like somewhat similar to what happened to the small dromaeosaurs or microraptorans in different parts of China in the early Cretaceous period. They ended up being buried by volcanic ash. So, but outside of that, I'm not familiar with any preserved fur from the Miocene, and so far they don't. Um, I don't know how you would figure that out from the dental structure of the animal. This fur pattern is considered primitive for bears, such as that of the giant panda, whose white spots are so big that it actually seems to be white with black spots. A. Beatrix would have lived in the forest and could have been more sessile that those bears that tend to hunt. I think there's something off with the grammar here. Tend to hunt more, such as the brown or polar bears. This extinct bear would have escaped from larger carnivores by climbing up trees. Its diet would have been similar to that of the sun bear Ursus malleolus, or the spectacled bear Tremarctos ornatus, that only eats vegetables and fruit and sometimes vertebrates, insects, honey, and dead animals. Well, I'd be careful when you're stating that the diet of an animal that hasn't been around for over 20 million years would be similar to today's, considering the sun bear also lives in a completely different part of the world. Sun bears are only concentrated in Southeast Asia, so different parts of Thailand, Cambodia, and this animal is over in Spain during the Miocene epoch. So it's going to be feeding on completely different species of vegetation. And I've also haven't heard of anybody mention that an early animal fed on vegetables. That's like a modern term. Now, I don't know. There might have been prehistoric species of carrots. I think carrots are vegetables, but it is interesting. It just said sometimes vertebrates. I'm guessing that's referring to amphibians, small mammals, reptiles, which is certainly possible, but it would have been very distinct from today's sun bears. Sun bears, when it comes to protein, tend to focus on different species of ants. Occasionally, they might go after smaller mammals, might even feed on bats. But aside from that, they're going to be feeding on different species of fruit.
How do they
So
catch bats?
They
They,
might go into a certain cave, and just start munching on them from
or are they grabbing them off trees when they're
um,
sleeping?
it could be. I do not know when it comes to specifically also where those bat species are hanging out over in different parts of Thailand. Also depending on the bat species, some are more common than others, so they might only be focusing on a couple species of bats. So, heading back to it, we know that it was a different species to those documented up until now because of its morphological differences and the size of its teeth. We have compared it with species of the same kind, Agriarctos, and similar kinds from the same period, Ursavis, like we talked about earlier, and Endarctos. So that's also another species of early Miocene bear. So let's head back into the other animal that inhabited the Miocene at this point, and this is specifically Isilodon. Now, Isilodon was a member of the Calicotherium lineage of parasodactyl mammals. So this is more closely related to horses, rhinos, and tapirs as opposed to elephants, giraffes, and these animals could reach over a ton, but specifically, Isilodon was somewhere around maybe 1,300 pounds or a little over 600 kilograms. And it was an herbivore. And this animal would have walked on its knuckles, but there's a few interesting things about the Calicotherium, especially Isilodon. It did have retractable claws. Now, specifically how they were able to tell that, I do not know. But another thing is looking at their skull structure as well as the neck, it does seem that this animal might have had a very long, extendable tongue like today's giraffes to help snatch just the shorter, extended leaves from the different species of trees that it fed on in different parts of Eurasia during the Miocene. Now, the Calicotheres, they first evolved somewhere around 48 million years ago during the earlier Eocene epoch, and they would mysteriously disappear somewhere around 50,000 years ago. Um, oh, okay. So also, this animal could probably reach somewhere around 7 to 8 feet in height when on all fours. And so, when rearing up on its hind legs, it would simply probably reach over 11 feet in height. And that's not even the largest species. They would still have to deal with different species of the bear dogs or the amphicyonids at this time, depending on where they were. Um, there were certain species over in North America, but they never reached South America. So they mostly inhabited Europe, Eurasia, and Africa as well. So the reason for its extinction has yet to be determined, but the most probable cause is likely to be the opening up of the forest, giving way to more open, drier spaces and the appearance of similar yet larger, more competitive species. This is interesting considering the opening of forests was already occurring several times beforehand during the Oligocene epoch, after the Eocene epoch ended around 34 million years ago. And so this could take place somewhere around 20 million years. Oh, this is 11 million years ago. Okay, so this is interesting. So this is during the later part of the Miocene epoch. So that is interesting. That seems to probably fit the explanation. Now, it is interesting because when you see the depiction of this bear, you're thinking he's going to be feeding on bamboo because he looks like a panda, but he seems to have a much more just carnivorous sort of look to him, which is interesting. The study now suggests the appearance of this group related to giant pandas some 2 million years later, from 9 million years ago to 11 million years ago. Wow, well, that's a drastic change. We're seeing a lot of changes in time spans when it comes to the early evolution of different groups, and not just mammals, but even dinosaurs and marine reptiles. So, this is pretty exciting to see. They could have originated in the northeast basins of the Iberian Peninsula. So, the Iberian Peninsula refers to Portugal and Spain. So this is interesting considering the ancestors of giant pandas moved from Western Europe and then decided to make it all the way to China. Um, I'm guessing there must have been just simply more preferable habitat as they traveled east because the habitat changes, especially in Central Asia, have been drastically changed over the past 11 million years, as well as even Western Europe and Eastern Asia. So let me know in the comments what your favorite species of carnivorous mammal is. And from prehistoric to present, my name is Ethan. This is Creature Guide Live Daily News. Remember to like, comment, subscribe if you love talking about animals, and share this show with everyone you know because nothing is better than all animals all the time.